Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. We will now have our invocation by Ms. Nigh and followed by the pledge to the flag. Everybody, please stand.
We meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good, to recognize our responsibility to the past and to the future, and the rights and the needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and on our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Standard announcements are that we're going to be operating by our rules of procedure adopted December 18th, 2012. Use of cell phones during meetings is restricted. All correspondence for distribution to elected officials should be provided to the City Clerk and should include a copy for the City Clerk for inclusion in the official record. Our meeting schedule is as follows. Tuesday, June 4th, we'll have a work session at 4 o'clock. Tuesday, June 11th, a work session at 4 o'clock. Tuesday, June 18 is a regular session which will begin at 7 p.m. and we will not be meeting on the 25th due to the MML Convention that I think a number of us will be attending. So without further ado, would like to introduce some special guests. Today we have with us Emma Hackman and Kayla Richards, and they are the contest winners for the MML If I Were Mayor contest. So they were chosen by a panel, not by anybody here at the city, and they would like to share with you what they would do if they were mayor. So who's going first? First, Emma.
I wrote about if I were mayor, I would put more playgrounds in the neighborhoods that don't have playgrounds, and I would build more homeless shelters.
Very good. Thanks, Emma. And Kayla, tell everybody what you would do if you were mayor.
I wrote about if I were mayor, I would make more soup kitchens and homeless shelters.
Very nice. And, you know, it's an honor and a privilege for me to serve as mayor, and I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's so nice to be the mayor. It's only unfortunate that I possess a gavel and not a magic wand. So I'm still hoping that one day someone will bring me that magic wand to make all of our dreams come true here in the city of Hagerstown. But until then, we have the hard work of government here. So let me read a proclamation of special recognition for you guys, okay? On behalf of the city of Hagerstown, we hereby wish to extend our sincere congratulations to Emma Hackman and Kayla Richards in recognition of being selected as a finalist in the Maryland Municipal League's 2012-2013 If I Were Mayor, I Would essay contest. Your hard work and creativity are to be commended. We encourage you to continue to set new goals and strive to realize them. As you celebrate this accomplishment with family and friends, please accept our very best wishes. Yours truly, the City of Hagerstown, Dave Gysberts, Mayor. So if you don't mind, let's come in front of the desk here and I'll present you with your proclamations. I think your parents would like to get some pictures of you too. Come on around. And I want to recognize, I think I'm supposed to put this thing on it, they'll yell at me. I want to recognize Miss Rich, I think, who is their teacher at Pangbourne Elementary School. Miss Rich, would you like to come up too? And here, let's do this. Here's a certificate for you. And for you. Miss Rich, come on up. Yeah, come on up here. You inspire these young people to write good essays, so you deserve some recognition too. last words.
Yes. On three. 1, 2, 3.
Good job. Would you guys like to stay up here on the stage, or you want to rejoin your families? You want to keep helping me run the meeting? No? You've had enough already, huh? How about you? Okay. Well, thanks for being here, and thank you to your families for coming and for encouraging them, and hopefully they'll keep on being successful in school and in life. Good job. Oh, we also have preservation awards. I'm going to invite Steve Bachmiller to come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. My name is Steve Bachmiller. I'm the staff to the city's Historic District Commission. May each year is Historic Preservation Month, and for that month, one of our observations, or observances I should say, is the Historic District Commission selects projects that were worthy of special recognition in the preceding year. This year we have 4 projects that will be awarded, and we'll call them up individually one at a time. But before I do so, I'd like to introduce you to the Vice Chairperson of our Historic District Commission, Vicki Rabel.
Hi, my name's Vicki Rabel, and I have been on the Historic Commission for, I think, 6 years now, and I am very proud to help the city save and preserve our historic architecture, which is a wonderful thing to have. Thank you.
Okay, and what we'll do is we'll go through them one at a time, and the mayor and Ms. Rabel will hand out the awards. The first one we have is 140 South Potomac Street, which of course is at the bottom of our pile. This is a project that was taken on by some folks, David Lyles and Jeff Warren, and also they're with J&D Solutions, and also Shelby and Michael McGinley. This project was a building on South Potomac Street, or is, I should say, building on South Potomac Street, just below the library. Due to deferred maintenance over a number of years, the building was getting in rather troubling shape. But these folks took on the project, purchased the property, and fixed it up to its current conditions. And it's definitely a significant improvement to that part of South Potomac Street's streetscape. So with that, we'd like to call up Mr. Lyles and Mr. Warren and the McGinleys. Take the piece off there.
Guess we should see who we have here, huh? This is Dave Lyles and Warren. Thank you so much.
David, thank you very much.
There we go. Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. McGinley, thank you so much. Great work. Keep up the good work. Here you go. This is for you. Oh, yes. All right. Sure. Yeah, let's come up and take a picture. Hold your certificates. Come on up. No, we have to have it centered. Aaron would have a fit if we weren't centered in the, yeah, come on now.
All right. On 3. 1, 2. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Looks good. Let me take one more shot.
You can always check us out on YouTube.
Exactly.
On 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you've done. Keep up the good work.
The next one we have is a project actually undertaken by the city of Hagerstown itself. This is the property at 36 to 40 North Potomac Street, formerly known as the McKee Building. This is actually a pre-Civil War building that also was starting to see some pretty troubling times. Come to find out that the front facade was actually not attached to the rest of the front of the building, amongst numerous things, but the city, through various funding sources, was able to acquire this property and is approaching completion of the complete rehab of the building, including the exterior that you see here, but also rehabbing the interior for 2 commercial spaces and 4 studio artist lofts on the 2nd and 3rd floors. This is a project of the Department of Community and Economic Development, and representing the department to receive the award is Mr. Andrew Sargent. And in addition to the city as a whole, the project manager was John Kearns, who could not be here tonight, and also the project architect was MSB Architects.
Come on up. Yeah, you're taller. You can stand up. Thanks. I appreciate the city doing innovative things to demonstrate what's really possible in the downtown. And I think through these experiences and acquiring property and then establishing a new and positive use for them has also demonstrated to the city folks what exactly it takes to really rehab a building in downtown. I think that's valuable insight that we have in our partnerships with private developers, and I think that's a really positive thing. So,
The next one on the list is the First Hose Company of Hagerstown. Their building was built in the 1880s, and it's a very unique piece of architecture for that time period. This project involved the rehabilitation of the front facade of the building, reopening formerly enclosed windows, major painting, masonry repair, and things of that nature. But this also points out the cooperation between private property owners and also the city in coming up with standards that work for everyone concerned. This is an excellent example of the application of the city's new Historic District Commission guidelines policy regarding the use of replacement windows. Our regulations or our guidelines were recently loosened in order to allow for the use of modern materials in replacement windows as long as the replacements are of high quality and reflect the architecture of the windows being replaced. In this case, First Hose worked with HPG, Hagerstown Paint and Glass, to come up with window models. So with the windows that you see on the right-hand side are modern material replacement windows, but they reflect the architecture of the previous design. And also, if you notice, some places throughout that front facade where windows were enclosed are now open, such as the arch-shaped transoms. The one window sash where the air conditioner is shown on the far left of the building on the left-hand photo, and has done an incredibly good job of improving the quality of the facade of this particular building. So, First Hose representatives. Ray and Pat Lushball.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Pat.
Ray is the secretary of the fire company, and Pat is a member.
And I think they have one for Hagerstown Paint and Glass, too. So you want to come on over for a photo? Thanks. You want to be in the picture, Marty? No. Oh, I thought you were coming up to be in the picture.
I might be in the picture, but you take the honors.
Reaching a step, 2 steps to the right.
I told you, she gets a little funny about being centered on that thing.
All right, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Good job. Thank you.
And our last one of the 4 is a rather unique award. Normally, the preservation projects that do receive awards are associated with specific individual properties and rehabilitation of them. This is one where it's more of a awareness effort being awarded rather than an individual project. Rose Hill Cemetery of Hagerstown agreed to underwrite a major project for the city for the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, which we're in the middle of right now. The city approached Rose Hill and said, we have this idea of a walking tour fold-out map that on one side would have the Hagerstown as it appeared in 1861 and the various sites around it, and also plotting out the various historical markers that the city's installed around the city over the last several years. And on the other side is a similar map, but of Rose Hill Cemetery, plotting out the burial locations and creating a walking tour of scores of very important people who have been interred at the cemetery over the years. The Rose Hill took on the project, and they funded the design cost and also the first print run of the first 5,000 copies of the walking tour brochure. And I think the overall cost was somewhere in the general ballpark of about $5,000, I believe, as a means of gathering public awareness about the city's historical resources, and also to serve as a tourism generation tool. More people know about the resources that we have in Hagerstown, the more people will come down and enjoy them. And Rose Hill Cemetery within itself is probably one of the city's most underappreciated historical resources, in that it has such a large area. It's architecturally significant as far as the statuary it's located within it, and also the importance of many of the people who are buried within. But Rose Hill agreed and took on the project for us, and we would like to thank them by recognizing them with this award. Representing the cemetery are the president of the cemetery, Mr. Roger Finn, and the executive vice president, Mr. Bill Divalbus.
I have to say, this is one of my favorites, especially the other side where you can see all the existing structures still that remain from 1861.
Terrific idea, but I think people should know that we underwrote it, but Steve Bachmiller was the driving force on it. So Steve needs a little bit of credit also.
Indeed.
Thank you, absolutely.
Good job, gentlemen.
Right. Thank you.
Mayor,
Indeed.
thank you.
Please come forward.
And on three, 1, 2, 3. Let me take one more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bachmiller. I agree with what they said. You provide valuable service, I'm sure, many hours off the clock, doing good work on behalf of the city of Hagerstown, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And if anybody's interested, over on the credenza here, we'll have copies of the walking tour brochure that you can take home.
Madam Clerk, do we have any citizens signed up to speak? Oh, here we go. Thank you. I got it. All right. We are going to enter into citizen comments. And I would remind folks that citizen comments are limited to 5 minutes per individual. Meetings are televised and recorded. Your comments will be on air and on tape and on YouTube. First citizen to sign up to speak is Mr. Chip Cook, the esteemed Mr. Chip Cook. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Chip Cook. For full disclosure, I'm the president of Central Maryland AFL-CIO Labor Council. I'm also on the executive board for Local 1540 AFSCME that represents many of the city workers, approximately 130 of the city workers. I've also been on the last 3 out of 4 negotiating committees trying to achieve contracts with the mayor and council. It's been a painful process, and I know that you've deliberated, you've had a lot of struggles, you're still struggling with trying to come up with a budget and trying to do the right things for the employees and the taxpayers and the citizens of this city. but I want to try to put a little bit of the employee perspective on what the employees face. And it's not just the members of 1540, it's our policemen, and it's our firefighters, and it's the utility workers down there at the light plant. Since we've had this economic struggle, many things have happened that have affected the lives of these employees. We started out, we had jobs eliminated. People were actually let go from the city, management, union alike. Hopefully these people found other jobs. Some of them probably did not, and did not get the salaries that they made when they were working for the city. That was just one of many things that happened. Right after that, we had furlough days. For another year, people lost 2 weeks' pay. Thankfully, by working with the finance department, they did split that up. So the pays were cut down a little bit. I think it was 3.8% or somewhere in abouts. But that was the second thing that happened. Then we took sick pay away for the employees that could cash their sick pay in at retirement. You took the pay away from the most judicious employees you had that came to work every day and did not use their sick pay, and they showed up every day. Long-term employees, but in order to save money, balance the budget, whatever you had to do, we turned around and started clawing that back and taking it away from these employees. I wish there would have been some creative thinking at that time, and maybe that sick pay should have been given to those employees that earned that and paid it in installments. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. There's still a chance maybe to claw some of that back and help the employees that still have some of that sick pay before they end up giving it all away. There have been no step increases in 4 years. We have entry-level employees that have come to work for the city at wages below what I consider a working wage. The first couple years, I know in local 1540, there are significant step increases so that by the time they're working in their third year, they're actually making a livable wage, and it's somewhere relevant to the rest of the employees that they work side by side with in the departments. I hope that you can find a way to put these steps in, particularly for these people in their younger stages, whether it's policemen or 1540, because it's below standard right now. That definitely needs to be considered. These people also, in these contracts, they've given up a couple sick days. 2 days for every employee that was working in here gave that back. We also lost 3 weeks of sick pay, and by this I'm saying come January when you got your 15 days of sick pay, what happened was you didn't get 15 days come January. You had to accrue it as you earned, so it took a whole nother year to get that back. So there was 1 year of lost sick pay. I heard people talking about the pension. I heard Councilman Alshire talk about, well, we can't sustain the city cost in pensions and stuff. I really don't know what the city cost is for the pensions, but the employees have shared in this also. Everyone here that's an employee of the city of Hagerstown is paying 2% more out of their wages to put into that pension fund. They get no additional pension. So that was another 2% decrease that the employees saw in their wages. And then we talk about health care. Well, I also sit on the city health care committee, and it's been painful. We have many lively discussions, but I will say that they've done an excellent job in the last 6 years that I've been involved in it. We have almost flatlined the city's insurance cost for at least 5 of those years. We're starting to see a little bit of an increase, and we need to get back and look at that and see what we can do to try to keep that as level as we can. Unfortunately, I don't think you can keep health care level forever. But we have singles. The singles were the employees working for the city that used to pay a few dollars because the idea was the single employee paid, their health care was paid by the city. If they bring their families in, they paid significantly more. Somebody that's covering a family right now with the city is paying approximately $500 a month out of their pay for that insurance that the city provides. But the singles went from a few bucks, they're paying $20 a week. They're paying about $100 a month extra that they didn't pay before this whole thing started. It's another decrease in wages. We've also moved the prescription health care into a Mother May I system. So if somebody wants to have a certain prescription, they have to jump through a few hoops to say, well, maybe Tylenol is a little cheaper, can you try that? And then we'll try this, and then if none of that works, we'll finally give you the prescription that the doctor prescribed in the first place. We took the health care away from the over 65 retirees, where that they don't have the old health care plan anymore. They're put into Medicare. There's a $400 amount of money that's available for them to buy supplement insurance. That money hasn't been raised, I know, in the 6 years since I've been on that committee. I don't know how many years before that. We talk about health care going up, but nobody's talked about raising the stipend that these over 65 retirees get. And also those over 65 retirees are now being put into Medicare D, so that we don't have the same prescription coverage that we had before. Now, this just outlines many of the things that the employees have had to face, and that we've had to sit there through these many years of negotiations, trying to keep us out of this race to the bottom. And we would like to see a little more creative thinking there and saying, what can we do to do what's right to the employees? How can we restore what was promised to these employees when they looked at these contracts and they accepted the jobs when they came to work with the city? Is there a sustainable rate that might have to be looked at as far as tax paying? My tax bill went down $500 a year on my property tax. But I will tell you that the cost to provide the services didn't go down. It's nice to have that tax cut, but I understand that that money needs to be put in there at a sustainable rate so you can sustain the services that you're trying to provide in this city. I think there's a shared responsibility that needs to be looked at. There's a taxpayer responsibility to help sustain these utilities and the services that are provided, and the employees also understand and have worked very well with the mayor and council and the city's negotiating teams to reach these contracts. But it can't always be put on the employees' backs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chip. I appreciate your comments. Next up is Mr. Jerry Kump.
I think most of you know me. Excuse me. I'm a retired professional engineer, had consultant engineering business for 35 years in Hagerstown. What I'm here to talk to you about today is about the litter problem, and I made a little study, a little preliminary study, in a 2 to 3 block area around the square. And I observed six items here. Item number 1, litter is mostly from cigarette butts. Number 2, the square in 1 block in each direction has no significant problems. Number 3, the worst cigarette problem is where multifamily residential apartment buildings with 4 or more units are located. Number 4, most tenants throw their cigarette butts on 2 sidewalks before entering the building. And just have a note here that many landlords, I belong to the Landlord Association, have in their leases that the tenants aren't allowed to smoke in the units for fire reasons. Number 5, the cigarettes pile up at bends and offsets of the curbs where you go around trees and have offsets for parking spaces. Number 6, weekly street cleaning cannot get these offset spots. Sweeper can only get straight curb sections. Cleaning is not real effective at the driveway entrances. They only pick up about 50% of the cigarette butts. I've watched them many, many times. The butts that lay right in the joint between where the concrete slab goes and the asphalt. Solution. Based on what I saw read off above, I've come up with 7 items here that as my observations for you to consider. Number 1, keep street sweeper that you have going. To me, this is the most important job in the city of Hagerstown, to keep a good, clean downtown area. Number 2, there's 4 areas that I think should be done twice weekly. And again, it's where the high concentration of rental apartment units are. And I have them listed down here. I guess there's no sense in going into them, but like on Baltimore Street, on the south side where the apartment buildings are located. I happen to own 3 commercial buildings over on Baltimore Street, and I'm very familiar with it. I've been cleaning up the cigarette butts since 1980 over there. But I have listed down 4 places I felt there were hot spots for piles up of trash and cigarette butts. Number 3 in the recommendations, investigate purchasing a smaller street sweeper for the bends and offset areas in the curb lines. This sweeper could also be used for small off-street events down here in your public parking lots, cleaning your parking lots, and so forth. As an example of that, I go to Otterbein Church. Down here where you come around Locust Street and on to Franklin, you just look at where the curbs come together back in the pots. There's just piles of cigarette butts, and like I say, they never get cleaned unless someone happens to go out and sweeps them down the street to where the straight curb is. Okay, number 4, approach landlords who own 4 or more units to install a cigarette disposal container at their doorways. This is, and I checked some prices, but this would be probably a $200 to $300 cost to get a unit like they use at banks and grocery stores and professional buildings. You have one right out in your front door here of the City Hall. Number 5, since it appears that the areas where the city has installed trash cans, you have less street trash. So I would consider maybe expanding those trash cans to other selected trouble spots. Number 6, encourage citizens and landlords to sweep trash off sidewalks onto street just prior to street sweeper going by. This would take care of the trash that's on the sidewalks that never gets to the street. And finally, number 7, try to end up with a big bang here. I went to Florida a couple months ago, and I went into the state of South Carolina. There's a big billboard up, and it says, South Carolina is not an ashtray, and it has a hand with a cigarette in it, pushing it down in the grass. And I thought, well, you know, that might be a good idea. So I came back, and I made up my own sign here, and you see that or not. It says, Hagerstown is not an ashtray. And this is the same reaction I got when I gave this same speech to the Landlords Association just a couple months ago. They were very receptive.
And they all agreed to put in receptacles at their buildings, correct?
No, I didn't go that far.
Oh.
I don't have any legal basis there. But here's Little High School with cigarette pushing him down on the ground, defeating him. It says, please don't litter. I'm planning on putting this up where I have a signpost over there on Baltimore Street. I would love to see the city do something similar to this around town. And it's in an effort, my wife says I'm probably wasting my time, but it's in an effort to try to educate our citizenry to, you know, have respect for where they live and to try to clean up, even if you can get through to 30% or half the people, to quit throwing trash down on the streets. And we got to start somewhere. And I think you got to work with the landlords, because from my driving around and observing, it's mostly where you got a high concentration of rental units. On Baltimore Street, on the north side, it's mostly owned houses. There's no problem at all. You don't even need the street clean road over, but over on the south side of the street, where the apartments and everything are, you need it. Really need it twice a week.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Kump.
Okay.
That's really wonderful
I can be
comments.
of
I
any help, let
appreciate
me
your
know.
efforts, and I love the motto.
You're right.
Hagerstown is not an ashtray. And one of my big pet peeves is when someone flicks a cigarette out of their window and I'm driving behind them and it lands on my windshield or what, you know.
Right.
Cigarettes are litter too. I think that's the message.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you bringing that to everybody's attention.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Bruce, you should have Eric look at that. I said he should have Eric Dykey is the one that does the
Public Works Director.
kind of public works. Yeah, I'd like to have one for the Alms House, please.
It might be the hot ticket, the new hot ticket in town, coming to a neighborhood near you. The last citizen to sign up to speak is Bill, and I cannot make out the last name, but is Bill out there? Would he like to come forward? No Bill?
Potomac Street?
Bill on South Potomac? No? Well, I guess maybe he already got his answer. Or he'll come back another day. Anyone else like to come up and say anything? This would be a good opportunity. Anybody? All right. Well, that'll conclude citizen comments, which will take us to the approval of minutes. Yeah, I'd like to note if you're looking at your motion, the city clerk is still working on the minutes for April 30th.
Mr. Mayor, I
And
hereby
and the 23rd as well? Okay, thank you.
hereby move for the approval of minutes as presented for the mayor and council meetings held on April 2, 9, 16, and 23rd of 2013.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All in favor of the approval of minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, the next thing up is the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner, seconded by Mr. Brubaker. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. All right, unfinished business. Approval of an ordinance, approval of the 2013-2014 tax rate.
Mayor, I hereby move that an ordinance be approved as introduced May 14th, 2013, to establish the city's tax rates for the levy year July 1, 2013 through June 30th, 2014 on the basis of 0.788 per $100 of assessed value of all real property and $1.97 per $100 of assessed value of all business personal property within the city of Hagerstown. These rates are the same as the current year.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to vote in favor of the tax rate, although I will tell you if I had my druthers, I would have a different tax rate, and candidly, it would not be lower. I think that we heard from two speakers tonight, both of them reflecting various problems with the tax rate and the budget. One with employee compensation, and I think, candidly, if I had my druthers, there would have been more, and that, in my opinion, would have required a tax rate that's different than this one. The other gentleman who spoke is just reflective of what we used to do and are unable to do because of finances and understaffing. We used to have somebody walk around downtown all the time with a big vacuum cleaner, so to speak, to take care of these issues. We don't do a lot of things we did, and I think that's because we have cut back and cut back and cut back. It's reflected in the fact that we have opted to borrow a fair amount to take care of what used to be paid for through tax increases. I recognize why we did what we did, but we cannot ignore what you already heard here. We made a significant tax decrease. I don't think the tax rate that we have is sustainable, and I anticipate that next year a majority of us are going to agree that it's going to have to be changed. If I had my druthers, it would be changed incrementally instead of a bigger chunk next year. Having said that, not agreeing does not necessarily mean voting against, so I will be voting in favor of this tax rate.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'll make my comments during the budget
Thank you.
resolution.
Any others? All right, we had a motion from Mr. Brubaker, a second by Mr. Munson. All those in favor of approval of the tax rates for next year, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Tax rate is approved. Next item on the agenda under unfinished business is the approval of the 2013-14 budget.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that an ordinance be approved as introduced May 14, 2013, and subsequently revised to adopt the budget for fiscal year July 1, 2013 through June 30, 2014, in the total amount of $133,145,831.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Munson seconds the motion made by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move to amend the budget, not increase the total amount whatsoever, but I move that we allocate $3,000 from the unspecified agency contributions and contributions to other agencies to the Maryland Food Bank Western Branch for use in Hagerstown.
And I'll second that motion.
And I would accept the amendment.
Okay.
Does not increase the total amount, so it doesn't increase the motion.
All in favor of that amendment? Any discussion before we vote on the amendment?
Well, as a point of order, Mayor,
Yes.
we don't vote on the amendment, do we? If you move to amend, if I accept your amendment and the seconder accepts it, that is amended,
We're
and
good.
now the vote will be on the motion. Is that correct?
Motion as amended.
As amended.
That's my understanding. of
Okay.
How we would do it.
Any other discussion?
Sure. I'm not really in favor of that amendment. I think it's picking and choosing, frankly, before we even have choices in a very small amount. But I wanted to address a couple of things, as everyone is aware, and I wanted to make my comments on the budget as well. You gave us this document a couple of months ago, and so I felt, obviously, this is our charge to review it, to come up with recommendations, reasonable recommendations for changes to the budget as it relates to expenses and revenues. And, through the discussion, the easy answer is clearly always, let's just simply raise the tax rate.
Which we haven't done.
That's the easy answer to those issues. Even doing so, we would be looking at a significant increase. And I think that it's important to point out you're talking of an increase to fund what the long-term budget projection of this body has. And I think it's very important to note that what we're voting on tonight is strictly the budget for fiscal year 2014. Clearly, it has projections in it for 15 and 16 and out years, but what we're voting for tonight is only this fiscal year. And so for me, I sort of look at it, we come into office in December, we give it some degree of pass, but I stand by those remarks I made in public session, that we can't increase borrowing from 2005 to present, from $34 million to $80 million, and be sustainable. It's not. We cannot absorb increases in pension costs where we have an estimation from the outset of being 7.5%. In one, it's now, I believe, at 13. And we can't have inclusive some of those PAYGO representations that jump from 750,000 to 1.2 million to 1.7 million in those years without seriously considering other alternatives. I believe I provided at least 16, which could be phased in over this and the two subsequent years before I would consider determining if any tax increase would be necessary. And so I look at this, and I had 7 items on the list for this budget we're about to vote on this evening, and 3 of which were entertained, 2 on the utility side, one being the delinquent account fee, the other being the vacant base rate charge, which we discussed last week, and the third being the dispersion of city-owned properties. The third being the only one that is on the general fund side. We didn't have a lengthy discussion on the parking fee recommendations that were put forth a year ago that could provide adjustment. Reducing or leveling out, if you will, of pay-go over a 4-year period. The discussion of a stormwater management fee on non-residential was nixed. And moving the downtown Invest Hagerstown program, that $1.5 million out of debt service and covering that in reserve also was tabled. There are a number of other things that I think we can do over the next 4 to 6 months to position ourselves better between now and next year. But the simple answer for me just will never be just raise taxes. I think that you have to consider all of these options within the budget to figure out how far you're going to stretch that before that becomes the only option. And I think for this year, like I said, if we can work on those things over the next 4 to 6 months, I think it'll address some of the things that were raised, like being able to put about $500,000 back into the budget for steps, but it's going to have to happen over a long period of time. To be able to fund all of these requests in a single budget year, just, you're talking 23-cent increase on the tax rate at the end of the day. I mean, that's the figure. To be able to afford everything you want to put in the budget over the next 3 or 4 years.
Mr. Mayor, may I comment?
Please, but I would like to ask.
Or where are we? We're on discussion.
You were still in discussion. I just wanted to clarify with Councilmember, the budget adjustment strategy that he handed out was for fiscal year 14-15. So what I hear you saying is you may be willing to support this budget because you recognize we came into this, we got the budget basically a month after taking office. We've been talking about these very important issues, and you have made a number of recommendations. I don't think they've been tabled. I think that actually some of them are positive contributions to the discussion, especially with regard to employee compensation, bringing back the steps in a phased way. I think that's a good way to go. The stormwater management fee takes about a year to implement something like that, and I know that I've had discussions with the finance director on that as well, and the city administrator, the utilities. So I appreciate what the council member is saying in terms of the long-term strategy we need to have, but I also appreciate the fact that this is the budget that we have, and it's not everything that we like, but it's one of those hard decisions that we have to make. Mr. Brubaker.
Yes. I don't like the phrasing, this is the easy thing to do, and I don't like that there are simple solutions to what faces us. I have talked repeatedly that we face a difficult dilemma over the next 2 or 3 years, and that this budget gets us through this year, and that I don't think we should raise taxes until we know what we're raising them for, and we have decisions to make to decide whether to do that or not. This budget does not raise taxes. It does not require things that raise taxes the next 2 years. We face a potential loss of 8% of our property tax revenues, which will, in lieu of a 2% increase in employee compensation this year, which we'll have to make up next year, even if we lose that 8%. I hope that with the situation in the national economy, with the stock market raising, maybe real estate values will go up and we won't face that, but we won't know that until the middle of next winter. Then we'll be able to make responsible budget decisions. In the meantime, if we make commitments on other projects, the council is well aware that that is, raises tax increase difficulties, but we have not committed to any of those. Pay-go is $750,000. It hasn't gone up. It will go up higher if we commit to those projects, but we have not committed to those projects. There is a placeholder for a stadium, but there are no funds, no general funds committed for that project. Those would follow in subsequent years if and when a stadium project of whatever magnitude was approved, but that's not in this budget. So I don't think it's the easy thing to go. I think this council realizes we have a lot of tough decisions in an equation where the demands don't add up to the solution. So we're going to have to make a lot of tough decisions. But it's not easy, and we are not rejecting Councilman Ashire's proposals. Many of us, I think, will bring proposals in the next 5 or 6 months or over the next year to work on the budget. And there are difficulties and consequences with those proposals. Raising fees, changing revenue estimates, those aren't real budget estimates. We need to be conservative. We need to keep our feet on the ground. We need to move ahead in a responsible fashion. And I think this council is doing that. We face hard choices. We haven't committed to anything. We haven't committed to a tax increase. So I just want to make clear that I think we're doing what we need to do this year, and we'll work hard in the coming year and include Mr. Arshire's recommendations and many others in how to achieve that.
I think we would all agree that the gentlemen to my right are two very fiscally prudent gentlemen, and I appreciate both of their comments. Is there any other discussion?
I would only have one comment, and that is trying to think of the Orwellian word maybe for it, where we say that raising taxes is the easy thing to do. Reject raising taxes. Let's implement stormwater fees. Let's implement these penalty fees. Candidly, they're taxes. So my opinion is the easiest thing to do is say, I'm not raising taxes, call it a different name, call it a fee, and add it on.
But we haven't done that.
We haven't done that, and I'm not sure why we're being criticized for saying raising taxes is the easy way to do things when this budget doesn't raise the tax rate and doesn't raise taxes. But I can only assume that it's based upon my comment on the rate, where I thought the tax rate should be increased to make this sustainable. Having said that, again, if you ask me the choice of what our citizens would prefer, and that's to hear that they're getting 2, 3, 4 different tax bills in the mail for various different fees, or one fee, that's what I think would be appropriate. In the meantime, this budget does not raise taxes. It essentially is a flat budget from last year, which was flat from the year before, which was the most substantial decrease in taxes in the city's history. So I think last administration and this administration has certainly proved if not raising taxes is the hard thing to do, then we've done a very good job of that.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Metzner.
Mr. Mayor, I wish too that that gavel were a magic wand, but it's not. We have to live in the real world. Under the best of circumstances, budgets aren't easy. And they're not easy because they're hard work. They're extremely difficult to put together because there's so many demands for so few dollars. But most of all, budgets reflect the times we're in, and we are in hard times and have been for a long time. And as a consequence, I think this budget is the best we can do under the circumstances, and we just have to adhere ourselves to it until we have a chance to see what the future holds, and then move forward in the future with those times. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Munson. Ms. Nigh, would you like to make any comments?
Oh, yeah. Lou, I agree with you, okay? You know that I do. If you want public safety, if you want the amenities, if the people want to live in a clean town and a safe town, taxes are not going to be a big issue. Maybe come election day next time, maybe it will be an issue. But knowing how far down we are with our firefighters, with our police officers, with staff that we need in public works, that we're not maintaining a city like we should be maintaining, with all of the departments, and anybody out there that is seeing should certainly know that we've got a major problem. But my issue is that in looking at this, and certainly, as I said last week, I am no financial genius. If I were, I would be a multimillionaire. But in looking at many of the funds, that is money coming out of and going into the general fund, I have to ask the question that if we have these funds and we have so much in excess, then how much are we really supposed to have in these funds? And why is it that we cannot go ahead and do what we need to do for the employees? When I look at the contingency fund and I see the money that is in there, what is reality? What do we really have to have? That's a huge chunk, all right? And again, I'm not a financial genius. I'm not a city administrator. I'm just me, and I have those questions. And it's hard. It is really hard. I won't be voting for this budget because I do not feel that it's fair to the employees. I think that there are places that should be looked at, and I can only hope that somebody comes in here and says, hey, you know what? There are places, so why don't we look at it? So, in reality, it is that perhaps, yes, we will have to have a increase in taxes down the road, but I think at this time, there is still places in this budget that whoever else may be looking at it can find it. And I can only hope that they will. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nigh. Hold on a second, I wanted to make a comment about that. You know, Mr. Cook was in here and he rattled off a very long list of sacrifices that employees have made over the past few years. And I also want to do right by our employees, and I think that there is a responsible way to do that. But I think the idea that there's just money hiding somewhere in this budget or somewhere around City Hall is just a myth. And I think employees have recognized that over the years and have been willing to work with the city managers and the negotiating teams on their contracts to work with the city based on the reality that I think we all share, that it's still a tough economic situation that we're in. So I appreciate Ms. Nye's concern for the employees, but I hope that she would reconsider voting against the budget for the reason that there may be money somewhere that is in there. I think if we had the money, I think there's every intent that we want to compensate employees so that we can retain and attract quality employees and keep the machinery of the city running smoothly. Mr. Alshire.
I just want to make it clear, out of the 16 things that I put forward, there are 3, 2 of which already exist that were fee-related, that are service-specific. The second point is, I don't want to wait to see what the future holds to make these changes. That just isn't how I operate. And the third is, I'm not in favor of spending down our reserves on recurring costs because that is not fiscally sustainable.
Well, we aren't spending down our reserves.
Well, I think what he's hinting at is perhaps maybe what Ms. Nye is saying is if we have reserves, why don't we spend that on employee compensation?
No, what I said was if we have an abundance
Spend
of,
down our reserves, which we're not doing.
okay, an abundance of, all right? And a myth, I'm sorry, you know, sometimes myths become reality, don't they?
Any other discussion? Motion has been made by Mr. Mentzner and seconded by Mr. Munson after the amendment by Mr. Brubaker. All those in favor of approving the budget for fiscal year 2013-14 as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
Nay.
So we have 4 ayes, 1 no. Budget is passed. New business. We have an introduction of an ordinance, amendment number 8 to the Police and Fire Retirement Plan.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for an introduction of an ordinance to amend the City of Hagerstown Police and Fire Employees Retirement Plan in order to reflect changes in Maryland Civil Marriage Protection Act. This amendment addresses death benefits, rollovers, beneficiaries, and qualified domestic relations orders.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner, and seconded by Ms. Nigh.
It's nice to live in the state of Maryland, and I'll be happy to vote for this.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up is the introduction of an ordinance, the revision of Chapter 117, the recycling and refuse collection.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move that the mayor and city council introduce an ordinance to revise Chapter 117, recycling and refuse collection, to amend the definition of dumpster, to include roll-off trash containers, and to prohibit dumpsters on residential properties except under certain circumstances enumerated in the ordinance. This change is proposed because staff needs better tools to protect the quality of life in our residential neighborhoods.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Munson. I heard Mr. Brubaker first, so I'm going to give him the second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up is the introduction of an ordinance, the repeal of Chapter 184, property maintenance, and replacement with new Chapter 184, portable storage containers.
Mr. Mayor, hereby move the mayor and city council introduce an ordinance to repeal Chapter 184, property maintenance, and replace it with a new Chapter 184, portable storage containers. This change is proposed for the following reasons. One, the old Chapter 184 includes sections covered in other chapters of the city code. Two, the language pertaining to portable storage containers needs clarification. And three, staff need better tools to protect the quality of life in our residential neighborhoods and to clarify circumstances under which such containers are permitted in commercial and industrial areas.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner and seconded by Mr. Munson. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up is the introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 60-3, parking enforcement of the city code.
Mayor, hereby move for mayor and council introduction of an ordinance to amend Section 60-3, parking enforcement of the city code, to allow auxiliary police and duly authorized individuals to enforce parking provisions under Article 5, Chapter 60 of the city code.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker, seconded by Ms. Nigh. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up is the introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 60-28, towing and impounding of vehicles illegally parked of the city code.
Mayor, hereby move for mayor and council introduction of an ordinance to amend Section 60-28, towing and impounding of vehicles illegally parked of the city code, to permit authorized individuals to impound vehicles illegally parked.
Second.
Second. Mr. Mayor, just to comment, my recollection of this is the request of police, instead of mandating that they do it, giving them the authorization to do it instead of forcing them to.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification.
Any other discussion? Motion made by Mr. Brubaker and seconded by Mr. Munson. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up is the introduction of an ordinance amending Chapter 60-9, immobilizing and/or impounding of vehicles for unsatisfied summonses or citations of the city code.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council introduction of an ordinance to amend Section 60-9, immobilizing and/or impounding of vehicles for unsatisfied summonses or citations of the city code, to permit authorized individuals in the Department of Public Works to boot or impound vehicles illegally parked and to act as hearing officers under Section 60-9.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Metzner and seconded by Mr. Brubaker. Any discussion? Hearing none. Call for the yeas and nays. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Munson, go ahead.
No, you-
This is for the approval of
go
a
ahead.
resolution for the residential lease agreement at City of Hagerstown property located at 23510 Warner Hollow Road, Smithsburg, Maryland.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt G through M, which are all concerning residential lease agreements regarding property at various places around the city and county. We adopt them collectively and individually.
Does anyone have any problem with that?
Second.
I heartily agree.
Here, here.
I asked that last week.
Yes, you did.
Don, thanks for
You
your
asked
research.
You asked when a lawyer was present, Hal. Well, I'm sorry, Bill's here, but you didn't ask Bill.
Mr. City Attorney, is it legal for us to do that?
Sure,
Sounds
As
good.
far as I know.
sure. Mayor's authorized to sign, and
G through N,
Makes
There you
perfect
go.
sense.
I'm sorry, G through M,
M like Mary.
items G through M. On new business,
yes, here, Don.
a motion made by Mr. Munson and seconded by Mr. Metzner, I believe. Any other discussion on the rental agreements for residences owned by the city? All those in favor of approval of these resolutions, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolutions, the leases are approved. That takes us to item N on the agenda, the approval of a resolution for a commercial lease agreement for 40 North Potomac Street, TIZAP.
I hereby move that the mayor and city council approve the attached resolution authorizing a lease agreement between the city of Hagerstown and Titan Group, I hope I have that right, Inc., doing business as TIZAP for the commercial space located at 40 North Potomac Street, Hagerstown, Maryland. Lease agreement shall be in effect from August 1st, 2013 to July 31, 2018, with an additional 5-year option period and provisions for prior access to complete tenant fit-out work.
Second. Give it to Mr. Munson.
Give it to him.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker and seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if we could, maybe take a minute with
Sure.
Andrew to just
Yes, please, Mr. Sargent, take it
describe
away.
this project a little bit.
After many discussions with this prospect, staff is pleased to bring for consideration a lease with Titan Group Incorporated, doing business as TIZAP. TIZAP will be Washington County's only dedicated Thai restaurant, and we're proud that they have chosen to locate their first Washington County establishment in downtown Hagerstown. The manager of TIZAP brings 13 years of experience operating 2 family-owned Thai restaurants in the DC metro region. Zap loosely means delicious in Thai, and TIZAP will also bring their authentic, delicious family recipes to their new restaurant here. TIZAP has committed to a 5-year lease with an additional 5-year option. They'll pay $9 for each of their 2,008 available square feet, paying $18,072 in rent in year 1. The city is currently preparing the space for a new tenant. TIZAP intends to continue to appropriately appoint the space and plans to open on or before August 1st. Thank you for your consideration of this prospective tenant.
Thank you, Mr. Downtown Manager, for your hard work in recruiting this business and for putting together this lease arrangement with them. And we look forward to new and exciting food options here in downtown
Thank you very much. It's truly been a staff.
to complement the already exciting options we have here in
Continue
downtown.
to go on your field trips.
Thank you, I will.
Mr. Munson.
First, I'd like to commend the people who are going to run this restaurant for having the good common sense to seek out Hagerstown. And secondly, I'd like, just as the mayor did, to commend staff for doing a great job on this. And I'd like to point out, this is economic development at its finest. And it just shows that we are making progress in downtown Hagerstown.
And that people still have an eye on Hagerstown for locating new and expanding businesses.
Obviously, they do.
Absolutely. This is a restaurant family that's well-established and is going to bring a destination restaurant here. And I mean, rapidly, Hagerstown is becoming downtown international food between Panamanian, Mexican, German, Thai, American. and I would congratulate staff also, and it's also a sign of what the city can do on its own with this building. And I just commend everybody.
Not to mention Italian.
That's right, and I can't wait to eat this.
And I hope we get a Thai Zap on North Potomac Street.
Hey.
All this talk about food's making me hungry. All right, any other discussion? Motion was made by Mr. Brubaker, seconded by Mr. Mentzner. All those in favor of the motion approving the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Resolution is passed. Next up is the approval of a license agreement for Gentry Family Realty LC, Memorial Boulevard right-of-way at GTS Welco.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move to execute a license agreement between the City of Hagerstown and Gentry Family Realty LP for the installation of a fence, pavement, and storm drainage pipe in the right-of-way of Memorial Boulevard. Final execution of this agreement is contingent upon approval of site development plan by the city's planning commission.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mentzner, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'm going to abstain just to be cautious. I sit on the planning commission.
Indeed you do. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. And we have one abstention. Thank you. Next up is the approval of a change order for R.C. Wilson Water Treatment Plant Phase 4 improvements, Hazen and Sawyer, Baltimore.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move Mayor and City Council approve the Hazen and Sawyer Construction Management Critical Phase Review and Interim Study Construction Improvements Change Order for the R.C. Wilson Phase 4 Disinfectant Byproduct Rule 2 project at the R.C. Wilson Water Treatment Plant in the amount of $121,415.
Second?
Motion made by Mr. Mentzner and seconded by Mr. Brubaker. Any discussion? All those in favor of the approval of this change order, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion is approved. Next up is the approval of take-home vehicles for Hagerstown Police Department General Detectives.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for the mayor and council approval authorizing the Hagerstown Police Department to extend the city's take-home vehicle program to the 6 general detectives working in the Criminal Investigation Division. These general detectives handle all major crimes and are called in several times per week to conduct investigations. The take-home car program will reduce their response times by allowing the detectives to drive directly to the crime scene. No additional vehicles will need to be purchased as a result of adding these 6 cars to take-home program.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Nigh and seconded by Mr. Mentzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next up is the approval of Safe Streets grant application as amended by the city clerk earlier today.
Mr. Hare, Mr. Hare, sorry about that, Mayor.
I've been called worse.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council authorization for the Hagerstown Police Department to apply to the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention for a Maryland Safe Streets grant. The application will include a request for $213,619 in funding, which includes the addition of a new full-time coordinator position. No local match funds or position retention requirements are stipulated in the application.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Nye and seconded by Mr. Mentzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Item S, the approval of the COPS hiring grant application.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council authorization for the Hagerstown Police Department to apply for 2 additional police officer positions under the 2013 Community-Oriented Policing Services Hiring Program. This program covers up to 75% of the cost for sworn officers for the 3 years with a year retention requirement. In 2012, the Hagerstown Police Department was awarded a grant under this program to fund 5 unfunded police officer positions. The 2013 application will be for funding to restore the 2 remaining unfunded positions. If awarded, annual cost to the city will be approximately $25,000 per officer in local matching funds.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Nigh, seconded by Mr. Munson. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Approval is granted. Item T, the approval of video surveillance integration system, Skyline Technology Solutions.
Mayor, I hereby move for mayor and council approval of 2 purchases through the federal COPS technology grant to install a video surveillance integration system. 2 purchases will be required to implement this system. One is the purchase of servers and workstations from Dell Computers of Round Rock, Texas, in the amount of $49,364.66. Second is purchase of central server and monitoring system from Skyline Technology Solutions located at Eldersburg, Maryland, in the amount of $112,678.46.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Brubaker and seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. And the last item under new business, item U, approval of administration of stop-loss insurance for medical coverage for FY 2013-14.
Mr. Mayor, I hereby move for approval of Highmark to administer the stop-loss insurance for the medical plan for fiscal year 2013-14. We have had our stop-loss insurance with Highmark for 5 years, building a favorable renewal history for the city of Hagerstown.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Munson and seconded by Mr. Metzner. Any discussion?
I do. I have a question. In the motion, it notes that we have been with Highmark for 5 years. And it notes in the attachment that the projected increase is 14%. Is that 14% increase what the city has experienced on average each of those years that we have been with Highmark?
It's my understanding it would reflect their assessment along with other bidders that were listed on that sheet based on current experience as well as current cost projections into the coming year for health insurance. I don't believe it's meant to reflect a cumulative increase over the 5 years they've previously had the.
So the 14% is just for 1 year's worth of increase?
Is that how you understand?
That's
Yeah,
how-
well, year to year, from the current year to next year is my understanding.
Okay, so I guess my question I'm trying to figure out is if we have on average experienced a 14% increase a year each year for the last 5 years.
No,
No, matter of fact, it's been almost flat. if I'm
it's been
correct,
flat
personally.
and,
Almost totally flat for
Yeah.
those years.
and I think what we used in the budget was roughly 12.5% as our
And
projected
this is the first major
health
increase I
insurance
remember in
increase
some
for
time.
the coming year.
So,
Right.
so this contract is just for this coming year,
For the coming year, for individual stop loss.
and this is the highest we've experienced in the last 5 years we've been with this entity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say yes. I have to confirm that, Councilmember, but I think yes, based on our experience in terms of our health insurance costs, like we've said, it's been pretty flat for the past several
Just,
years.
the motion includes the statement that over the 5 years, we have built a favorable renewal history for the city, and if it's 14% a year, to me, that wouldn't indicate a favorable renewal.
No, it hasn't been that
history.
good. I know that.
I do think they were probably referencing that
The
if you
low
look
bid?
at their cost proposal versus the
Well,
other
it's certainly much
four,
lower.
it's
No doubt about it.
think
The
that's
longer
what
you
they
stay with
meant when
somebody,
they said,
the less it is.
a favorable renewal history. They've got good experience with us and we do with them in terms of providing this service.
All right.
Okay, so there's a motion made by Mr. Munson and seconded by Mr. Mentzner. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. That's the end of new business. Mr. City Administrator.
I'd just like to thank the mayor and council for your work on the budget. It's never easy. This year particularly wasn't easy when you consider the timing of the budget arrival with a brand-new mayor and council. So thank you for your work on the budget. And we certainly understand that this budget in some ways is a work in progress in coming months, and that we'll be coming back to mayor and council work session with some of the items that Councilmember Elshire mentioned, as well as other items of interest to the mayor and council. So we'll continue to work on our budget and finances with the mayor and council. I want to thank all the staff because this truly is an organizational-wide effort to prepare the budget. That includes unions, our support staff, our managers, our staff work hard on the budget, and I appreciate council acknowledging that. I certainly want to acknowledge Michelle Hepburn kind of tucked back there in the corner, but they're the two that really carry the heavy load on getting the budget prepared. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Council comments. We'll start on my right with Mr. Alshire, and then we'll move down the line.
A couple of things. We received an email from an individual that raised some concern with their ability to do some work in their home, some smaller technical work, that required permit. One of the other things that I'd spoken to staff about that I hear from time to time is the difficulty for homeowners and property owners to find a smaller contractor to do very small items within the city because of the requirements for license approvals and things like that. So I think that that's two areas that would be beneficial to look at again over the coming year. And one area that got me thinking about that a little, and I know some city employees attended the local government exchange recently. I think it was last week as well. But there was a presenter there from Frederick, and when that board came into office, they went through those types of codes to identify areas to become quote-unquote more business-friendly. And just looking at that, I think, may share some thought process for us as well. As we continue to strive to get some of the properties redeveloped. The other item that I wanted to note, and I saw it in Monday's sort of report from the paper, was the sea containers, which I get to see now when I go to the Valley Mall, and I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. And I just want to make it clear, because I made a comment on the paper there, is the statement from the county is that sea containers aren't defined in the county code. There are clearly two sections in the county code which do define sea containers as mobile units. The county code also defines what a mini warehouse is, which is what is being utilized here. And I know it really has nothing to do with the city, and the point I was trying to make is that isn't in the city. We often get blamed for a lot of things, development-wise and that, but that one isn't one of ours. But I thought it important to note that the statement from the county does not appear to be completely accurate after reviewing their code. And then the next is I attended last evening, as well as some others did, was the function at the Hagerstown Sun Stadium, the MML meeting. And it was a very nice evening. I couldn't have asked for a more hospitable staff at the Sun Stadium, but it was certainly disconcerting on such a good evening. The weather was great to see, what I would estimate are a couple of hundred fans in attendance when we continue to talk about a project of this scope and magnitude in terms of sheer cost to do so. And then also we received an email from an individual regarding the extension of Haven Road, and I know that probably is reflective of discussion of the Northwest bypass or connector that we talked about at one time, so if I could get an update on that to respond. Also received, or received an update from staff, and I appreciate the information from engineering as it relates to some concerns that property owners have had in the east end of town related to an odor at the base of the property. What is that, the auto zone or something over there? I believe what would be in their estimation, the inaction of MDE to be able to address the issue to their satisfaction. I would say, any effort we can make to ensure that, whatever part we have in that process, that we would be able to assist to remedy that situation. Staff has certainly confirmed that there is an odor, that there is a seepage coming out from that property. And then the last item is, I know folks appeared to gain some excitement this evening over the sign that was presented by Mr. Kump. And I would only note that while I have no issue with promoting a message of being clean in downtown, by no means would I support a sign that includes a picture of cigarette butts being thrown at Little High School. That's just a simple preference. The message is fine, but I think it degrades a good symbol, a good representation of Hagerstown.
Hear, hear. Mr. Brubaker.
Yes, I don't believe I mentioned the employees. We had long and well thought out testimony from Chip at Citizen Comments, and I appreciate his concerns. I think we all do. I know we all do. And it's a difficult balancing act, and the employees have to realize that as we approach another year, which can only be probably worse than this year, that we're going to have to choose between a lot of things. If we compensation will have to be adjusted against taxes and against restructuring or against any number of other things, unless there's a boom in the economy. I mean, it's just inevitable. And we've provided for the increase we felt we could afford this year, and I would like to look for a way to make the pay package constructive and help the lower ranks next year. But it's going to be very hard to do, and I'm just going to be blunt about that. It's very hard, and we'll have to look for ways to achieve that. Maybe there are... I think when Chip said that we have to be creative, yes, he's right. But creative means we have to cut somewhere, and we have to cut hard. Or we're going to have to raise taxes, and we're one of the highest taxed communities in the state. And I worry when we're trying to increase our tax base and attract investors, what message that sends. If we do projects, I think they need to be something investors say that's worth it. So, but again, I appreciate the hard work, and I especially appreciate the employees have stayed diligent and made many valuable suggestions. That's what I appreciate most. Very constructive suggestions on productivity over the past 4 or 5 years, and I appreciate that much. And real quick, I have to do a stint at the golf course tomorrow morning with the group, and it reminded me of that it's time to remind you all. And I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I put my golf clubs away and haven't played for many years. My clubs are 1958 model.
Jeez.
It's been a while, but they're still good.
Dust them off,
yes,
Marty.
I gave them to a pro, and he wrenched his elbow, I think, a few years ago. So I haven't played, but I'm going to do that because I was looking at stuff about the course. Last year, I went to the opening of the new clubhouse. We have a new, it's not country club, but it's new, it's clean, it's got good facilities for you. It's real easy to use. We have rates that are among the lowest in the area, if not the lowest in certain categories. It's a great place to play, and I encourage you to go to our course. If you've forgotten, it's at Dual Highway in Cleveland. drop by, and city residents, you get a special discount. But it's competitive no matter where you live. So,
It's not a country club, it's a muni club.
that's right. There you go.
Mr. Metzner.
Thank you. A couple things briefly. One, I'm assuming we all got the letter from a former classmate of mine in high school from Oak Hill about trees on Oak Hill and the 15-foot requirement. I got to tell you, when I look around our town and I see like what we heard tonight, and I see this individual being harassed about this tree, when I realize that, I would guess probably 90% of the street trees in Hagerstown don't comply. I know mine doesn't outside. So I would hope, one, that we would get some common sense with this. I don't know how it occurred. Two, if the answer is that staff does not feel that they have the right to make an exception, then I think they should have come to us like the chief of police did and said, you got a statute that doesn't make sense because it makes us do things that we don't think necessarily is right. We should be allowed to have a little bit of common sense in it, and I think if that's how this is being interpreted, that it should be brought in a work session so we can amend the language on that and discuss the whole street tree issue. I know that I got a street tree put in my house about 4 or 5 years ago. It was the right kind of street tree that won't disturb the sidewalk. Except now my sidewalk is lifted up this much on the correct street tree. So we have those issues that haven't gone away. And it's also a concern when we ask people, can we put a street tree in your right of way? We would love to. Maybe we should start informing them that then they get responsibilities that they could be cited for if they don't follow. Having said that, on the more enjoyable things, I also was at MML, I think it was yesterday, and some of us got there early and left early, and some of us got there late and left late. I wasn't the only one who was there early, and I would just like to offer that in all my years at City Council, I don't think there's been a council member that I've been associated with that has been more active in MML than Councilmember Brubaker. He wasn't there, and I made sure that I indicated that the certificate of appreciation from MML would be given to you. So, on behalf of MML and the City of Hagerstown, thank you for all the work you do in the legislative committee. And it was made abundantly clear when they were asking for volunteers that don't worry, you don't have to do something absolutely insanely crazy like the legislative committee, which really requires work, but that you can do other things that don't require so much work, and so it's appreciated. And the last really nice item that I have, we did the budget tonight, which was good. The announcement of the new Thai restaurant is going to be fantastic. In 2007, 2008, this city, in conjunction with Conservate and Callis Contractors and McDonald's, for 2 years made it a point to get every World War II veteran that we could from the city of Hagerstown and Washington County down to the World War II Memorial free of charge on a very nice day with breakfast, lunch, and a beautiful time. Memorial Day is coming up this weekend. Last Memorial Day, I know the functions emphasized the Korean War, so I'm happy to announce tonight, in anticipation of Memorial Day this weekend, in anticipation of the Korean War Memorial dedication this June, which very unfortunately I again will be out of town for. I'm pleased to announce that the City of Hagerstown, in conjunction with private businesses, is going to get every Korean War veteran that we can find in the City of Hagerstown and Washington County down to the Korean War Memorial in Washington, and we hope to do it this coming spring, hopefully to coincide with the Cherry Blossom Festival. And if things went the way I would like them, if I'm here long enough, our next trips will be with our Vietnam War veterans. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Metzner. Mr. Munson.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to remind people that the Blues Fest is coming up soon. I heard an interesting interview with Carl Disk on the radio. I guess it was this morning, and It's going to be a great event. I'd also like to say this. I think the city of Hagerstown has some of the most dedicated employees of any place I've ever been. Times are tough, and the city employees have certainly had to tighten their belts much too often. But yet, we continue to move ahead and see success. And there's nothing that we do on this council that doesn't get done, almost, unless our city employees are doing their jobs, and they do their jobs incredibly well. I got an email, and I'm sure the rest of you got an email saying that this lady anticipated that we would not be reestablishing steps until 2017. Now, I don't have a timetable, nor does anybody else, I'm sure, have a timetable as to when we're going to reestablish steps, but I'm a little more optimistic than that. I think that we will reestablish steps far sooner than 2017. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Nigh.
I'd like to address the sign first, please, because I guess it's just a sign of getting older. But Jerry Kump, first off, is a very good man and a very concerned person over the city. And to me, the sign basically, by looking at it, if anybody does look at it and it stands out, they really should be asking, who is that person? And then what a learning experience. You obtain knowledge then about what was in Hagerstown. So I don't think that it's an offensive one. I think that it is a very good one. Also, I'd like to know if this is a myth or if this is a fact. The condemned buildings, if we have a condemned building in the city, is it so that after it remains condemned so long, it then reverts back to the city? Can somebody answer that?
I think our city attorney can answer that. That is not true.
Okay, well, that was brought up to me, and I just would like to know. Yeah, after so long, yeah, if it was not taken care of like it was.
I think in
like
that
it should
case,
be.
the city would still have to
I don't
give
know.
fair
I don't know.
compensation or just
It's something
compensation.
to check into. And the other week, when it was brought up about the fire truck, going back and looking at the weekly readers, I see that it was May the 3rd when it was announced that the ladder truck was in fact down. And then I'm seeing, is it the central maintenance garage, ours, that's doing this work?
Yes.
Has that always been a norm, that we've always?
Probably the last 2 years.
And it getting done quickly, which is really of
Actually,
importance?
the turnaround time for CMG with the fire department's been very good. I think it's been a good partnership for both.
Okay, and also, a lot of times when we do get trucks, we get 2 at a time. Do we have another one of the same?
Yeah, we've got 2 ladder trucks.
When we purchased this one that now is bad, was another one purchased at the same time?
Well, within roughly 2 years. I mean, we've got a ladder.
Same type, so what I'm getting at, are we looking at the same thing happening with the other one?
Yeah, I'd have to check and
I'm
see.
just throwing it out, okay? I mean, I'm seeing this, and I thought, okay, I might as well go ahead and bring it up here, because otherwise I'd end up forgetting about it. And also, I know that there was an email that had come through and a picture, and it had to do with American Little League minor league field at the fairgrounds. I'd like to know if there was anything that was decided on that, knowing that American Little League, as far as equipment, it's very tough to get, and I know maintaining their own field. So I just didn't want that field to be taken away from the kids. It was supposed to be a minor league field.
Yeah, we've not done anything to change the use of the field.
Okay, but did you get a response from them?
I'd have to check with Junior. He was
Okay.
handling the communication with them, so I don't know what kind of response he
Yeah.
got from the league.
All right, I just
And
didn't want that to
it might depend
happen.
on their plans to use the field this summer, too.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nye. Well, it's been a busy week in the city of Hagerstown. Last Wednesday was the Ride of Silence. I think we had over 60 participants do the 10-mile bike loop in silence, and it was just great to see all the people in the neighborhoods in awe of this mass of people riding bicycles through the city of Hagerstown. And so we hope more people hop on a bike and take a bike ride. We also had the Ride with the Mayor, which had a really good turnout last Saturday, and was very enjoyable, again, for the very same reasons. Last Thursday was the Taste of the Arts, which was just a fantastic event. And it was great to see so many of the BISFA students at different locations downtown serenading and performing for the general public, and also to see all those folks scattering through the core of the city, going to different restaurants, and really it was a good reminder of all that is here in downtown Hagerstown, and the good stuff and good things that are going on. Saturday was, in addition to the Ride with the Mayor, was also the neighborhood's first Day of Hope, and had the pleasure of attending there at the VIII Park. Good things are happening in that neighborhood, and we hope they continue. Just yesterday was the University System of Maryland graduation ceremony for all the folks who've graduated with degrees in the past year. One of the student speakers was a young lady who was the child of a single parent and became a single parent herself after high school, and she got herself through community college, got herself just yesterday a degree in nursing from the university system at Hagerstown, and it was really a reminder of how life-changing that institution is for so many young people and older people, actually, non-traditional age college students here in our community. And I want to thank them for all the work they're doing and congratulate all the students who graduated. And there's going to be lots of things going on this weekend. Sunday at City Park is a Tri-State Multicultural Festival from noon to 4. It should be a really good time. I'm looking forward to that. And also on Sunday, there are several activities to honor our veterans. And I know I'll be at the county courthouse for a wreath-laying ceremony at 2 o'clock. And at 6 p.m., there is a ceremony honoring our veterans at the Triangle of Honor at the corner of Jonathan and Pennsylvania and Forest, I guess, at the Triangle, Medal of Honor Triangle. So once again, good things are happening in Hagerstown. I want to thank all my council members for all their hard work and diligence. Mr. Administrator said it, the budget's not easy. There are no easy solutions. I don't have a magic wand. So, you know, in the meantime, we just have to keep having these courageous conversations, stay focused on continuous improvement, and make data-driven decisions. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.